My beloved child. Stop scrolling for just a moment. Do not let your eyes rush past these words as though they are meant for someone else. There is a reason your heart slowed down the instant this message appeared before you. There is a reason you felt an invisible pull that you cannot explain. What you are about to hear was not placed before you by accident. Something has been unfolding beyond what your natural eyes can see, and tonight, heaven invites you to listen with more than your ears. Listen with the quiet place inside your soul. Stay with this message until the very end, because something extraordinary is waiting to be revealed, and every moment from here forward leads to a truth that has been hidden for longer than you realize. Last night, while the world slept and countless lights disappeared behind closed windows, someone carried a weight that could no longer remain hidden. Their smile faded when no one was watching. Their voice became silent after pretending to be strong throughout the day. They believed nobody could hear the thoughts they refused to speak aloud. Yet heaven heard every unspoken word. Every silent tear. Every breath that trembled beneath the darkness. What happened in those quiet hours was not random. It was not meaningless. It was connected to a story much greater than either of you understood. Do not skip ahead in your mind. Let this unfold one step at a time. Sometimes the greatest revelations lose their power when they arrive too quickly. Sometimes the soul needs a slow sunrise before it can recognize the light standing before it. There is someone whose heart has been carrying your name far more often than you could ever imagine. Even when they tried to distract themselves with ordinary routines, your presence quietly returned. They attempted to convince themselves that they had moved beyond certain emotions. They repeated logical explanations. They told themselves they were fine. They smiled for others. They fulfilled responsibilities. Yet deep within, something remained unfinished. Something refused to disappear. That unfinished place was stirred again last night. No one around them noticed. No friend interrupted. No stranger understood. The room remained silent. But heaven did not remain silent. Sometimes I allow stillness because stillness reveals what noise has been hiding. It was within that stillness that your soulmate encountered a truth they had been avoiding. They did not expect it. They were not searching for it. They simply reached a moment where pretending became impossible. Pause here for another moment. Ask yourself why these words feel strangely familiar. Why did your attention refuse to leave? Because your spirit recognizes echoes before your mind understands them. The connection between two souls is not always visible through ordinary circumstances. It often moves quietly beneath conversations, beneath distance, beneath time itself. Long before two people understand one another, their hearts begin responding to invisible movements only heaven fully comprehends. Last night became one of those moments. As the hours passed, they remembered small things they believed they had forgotten. A simple conversation. A gentle kindness. A moment when your heart revealed more than your words ever could. Pieces that once seemed insignificant suddenly returned with overwhelming clarity. Memory has a mysterious way of awakening exactly when truth is ready to arrive. Do not leave yet. Something much greater is still waiting. Your soulmate did not break down because of weakness. They broke down because clarity finally became stronger than denial. There is a difference. Many people cry because life becomes difficult. But sometimes tears arrive because truth finally enters a guarded heart. Those tears carry healing. Those tears carry awakening. Those tears carry the beginning of change. For so long they believed they understood the story between you. Last night they realized they had only understood fragments. Imagine standing before a giant painting while seeing only one corner of the canvas. You may believe you know the picture, yet your understanding remains incomplete. Then suddenly the curtain falls away, revealing colors, patterns, and meaning you never imagined existed. That is what happened inside their heart. It did not happen all at once. It unfolded gently, quietly, powerfully. One realization opened another. One memory awakened the next. One emotion uncovered another hidden layer. And with every passing minute, their heart grew heavier, not because hope disappeared, but because understanding finally arrived. Something inside them whispered, "What if I misunderstood everything?" Those words echoed repeatedly. What if the moments they dismissed actually mattered? What if the silence between you was never empty? What if the distance carried lessons instead of endings? Questions filled the room. Answers did not immediately come. Sometimes I allow questions to deepen before revealing answers because a prepared heart receives truth differently than an impatient one. Stay until the end. Do not leave this message now. The next part changes everything. There are moments when heaven gently removes distractions so people can finally hear what their hearts have been trying to say for months, sometimes even years. Last night became exactly that kind of night. Without realizing it, your soulmate stopped fighting certain feelings they had buried beneath responsibilities, expectations, and fear. They stopped trying to explain everything through logic. For the first time in a long while, they simply allowed themselves to feel. And that changed everything. Because truth rarely enters through walls built by fear. Truth enters through open hearts. They remembered moments when your kindness arrived unexpectedly. Moments when your patience spoke louder than words. Moments when your silence carried more care than endless conversations. Pieces began connecting. One after another. Like stars appearing in the evening sky. Each memory illuminated another. Each realization revealed something even deeper. They began asking themselves why your presence continued returning no matter how far they attempted to place it behind them. They could not answer. Not yet. But they could no longer ignore the question. Sometimes the greatest miracle is not an instant answer. Sometimes the miracle is finally asking the right question. Do you understand why this matters? Because a heart asking honest questions has already begun changing. Transformation begins long before people notice visible results. It begins quietly. Secretly. Almost invisibly. Just like seeds beneath the earth before anyone sees flowers bloom. Last night, invisible seeds were planted. No one celebrated. No one applauded. No one posted about it. Yet heaven smiled because something beautiful had quietly begun. You may wonder why this concerns you. Why should someone else's hidden tears matter? Because your story has never been isolated from theirs. Lives touch one another in ways that ordinary understanding cannot measure. A kind word spoken months ago may become someone's strength today. A patient decision may become another person's healing tomorrow. A moment you believed was forgotten may remain alive inside someone else's heart. Never underestimate the quiet influence of genuine love. Its greatest victories often happen where human eyes never look. Your soulmate realized something they had overlooked. Not because someone forced them. Not because circumstances demanded it. Because truth arrived at the exact moment heaven knew their heart could finally receive it. That timing matters more than you know. There are seasons for planting. Seasons for waiting. Seasons for growing. And seasons when hidden fruit finally appears. Last night was not the final destination. It was the beginning of another season. Yet even beginnings can feel overwhelming. Especially when they reveal how much has remained unsaid. The room grew quieter. Their breathing slowed. They looked upward, not necessarily because they understood everything, but because deep inside they sensed they were no longer carrying this burden alone. Sometimes people pray without words. Sometimes tears become prayers. Sometimes silence becomes the loudest conversation a soul has ever had with heaven. Last night, heaven heard every silent prayer. Nothing escaped my attention. Not one heartbeat. Not one hesitation. Not one trembling breath. You may think this message is only about another person's emotions. It is much deeper than that. Because while your soulmate wrestled with truth, something was also happening within your own journey. Even if you never noticed. Even if you were busy. Even if your day seemed ordinary. Invisible threads continued moving according to a purpose far greater than coincidence. That is why these words found you today. Not yesterday. Not next week. Today. There is timing within every revelation. There is purpose within every delay. There is meaning within every unexpected encounter. Do not dismiss this moment. Stay present. The greatest part has not yet been revealed. Many assume dramatic miracles always arrive with thunder, bright lights, and unmistakable signs. Yet some of heaven's greatest works begin with one softened heart. One honest realization. One quiet surrender. Last night, something softened. Something surrendered. Something began changing. It was not visible to the world. But heaven measures progress differently than people do. While others count achievements, heaven watches hearts. While others celebrate appearances, heaven celebrates transformation. That is exactly what unfolded. As dawn slowly approached, your soulmate was no longer the same person who had entered the night. Nothing around them had changed. The room remained the same. The world outside remained quiet. Yet inside, everything felt different. They could not explain why. They simply knew they could no longer pretend certain feelings did not exist. That realization frightened them. It also brought unexpected peace. Because truth often feels both uncomfortable and freeing at the same time. Do not skip away now. The next revelation is closer than you think. There is one detail I have not yet revealed. It is the very reason these tears carried such unusual weight. The reason had nothing to do with failure. Nothing to do with shame. Nothing to do with regret alone. It centered on a realization involving you, one they had never fully allowed themselves to believe until last night. When that realization finally entered their heart, everything else became impossible to ignore. Their entire understanding shifted. Their memories changed meaning. Certain conversations suddenly sounded different. Certain silences suddenly became louder. Certain moments they once overlooked suddenly appeared precious beyond measure. That single realization became the turning point. But it also opened another question. A question so powerful, so deeply personal, that it changed the direction of everything they believed would happen next. And that question is exactly what heaven is about to reveal. The question that echoed through their heart was not spoken aloud, yet heaven heard it with perfect clarity. It was not a question born from fear alone, nor from uncertainty by itself. It came from the deepest place within them, the place where masks can no longer survive. They quietly wondered, have I been seeing this story through the wrong eyes all along? The moment that question surfaced, something extraordinary began to unfold. Stay with this message. Do not leave now. Every word from this point forward carries another piece of the mystery that brought you here, and what is waiting ahead is greater than anything revealed so far. My beloved child, there are moments when I allow people to arrive at the edge of their own understanding so they finally become willing to receive mine. Last night was one of those moments. Your soulmate sat in silence while memories continued returning like gentle waves reaching the shore. They tried to push them away. They attempted to replace them with distractions. Yet every distraction faded, while every memory connected itself to another, forming a picture they had never seen before. What surprised them most was not the memories themselves. It was what those memories revealed. They began to notice that every moment they had once considered ordinary carried hidden meaning. Every conversation contained kindness they had overlooked. Every quiet goodbye held emotions they never fully acknowledged. Every pause between your words carried a depth they had been too distracted to recognize. This realization did not arrive with loud excitement. It came gently, almost like the first light of dawn slowly touching the horizon. At first they barely noticed it. Then it grew brighter. Then brighter still. Before long they could no longer deny what was unfolding inside them. Do not skip. Remain here. Something remarkable is drawing closer with every sentence. There are truths that cannot be forced into existence. They must awaken naturally. Just as flowers bloom only when the season is right, hearts open only when they are finally ready to receive what has been waiting for them all along. Last night, readiness met revelation. Your soulmate suddenly understood that many of the answers they had been searching for were never hidden from them. They had simply been looking in the wrong direction. While searching outside themselves for certainty, they overlooked the quiet whispers already living within their own heart. Those whispers had carried your name for far longer than they wished to admit. The room around them remained still, but inside them everything was moving. Questions became reflections. Reflections became understanding. Understanding became emotion. And emotion became tears they could no longer hide from themselves. Those tears were not signs of defeat. They were signs that walls built over many seasons had finally begun to fall. Every wall carried a different reason. One was built from fear of disappointment. Another from uncertainty. Another from old experiences that convinced them it was safer to remain guarded than to risk believing again. Stone by stone, those walls had grown higher over time. Yet last night they discovered something remarkable. Walls can protect people from pain. But they can also prevent love from reaching them. The realization struck with unexpected force. They began asking themselves how many beautiful moments had remained outside those walls simply because they were too afraid to open the gate. Stay until the end. The greatest revelation is still ahead. My beloved child, heaven often works through moments people never expect. A single memory. A familiar melody. A quiet evening. A peaceful silence. These ordinary moments sometimes become the doorway through which extraordinary understanding enters. That is exactly what happened. Without warning, your soulmate remembered something you once did that seemed small at the time. Perhaps it was a simple act of kindness. Perhaps it was patience when they expected frustration. Perhaps it was understanding when they expected judgment. Whatever it was, that memory suddenly appeared brighter than ever before. They realized it had never truly left them. It had simply been waiting. Waiting until their heart became ready enough to understand why it mattered. The more they reflected, the more another truth quietly emerged. Your presence had changed them in ways they never fully appreciated. Not through grand gestures. Not through dramatic moments. But through countless quiet encounters that slowly shaped the way they saw the world. Like rain falling gently over time, your influence had reached places neither of you could see. This realization overwhelmed them. Because they suddenly recognized that some of the strongest changes happened so gradually that people only notice them after looking back. That is why last night became unforgettable. Not because something loud happened, but because something deep awakened. Pause for a moment. Breathe slowly. Listen carefully. Another part of the story is beginning. As the night continued, they found themselves speaking words no one else heard. Not because anyone was nearby, but because they were finally honest with themselves. They admitted feelings they had kept locked away. They acknowledged hopes they had refused to name. They stopped pretending indifference where genuine care had quietly remained alive. Every honest admission lightened something inside them. Every truthful thought removed another burden. The darkness outside slowly gave way to the first signs of morning, but inside their soul another sunrise had already begun. Heaven rejoices whenever truth replaces illusion. Not because perfection has arrived, but because healing finally has room to begin. Do not leave yet. There is still one hidden piece they have not fully understood. Although clarity entered their heart, uncertainty remained about one important question. Could everything they now understood still matter? Or had they realized it too late? That question lingered. It refused to disappear. Every time peace settled over them, that question quietly returned. Not with panic. Not with despair. But with sincere longing. Sometimes longing itself becomes a prayer. Sometimes hope survives even when certainty has not yet arrived. Heaven sees both. My beloved child, you often believe your story is moving too slowly because you cannot see what is happening beneath the surface. Yet rivers shape mountains without making noise. Seeds become forests long before anyone notices the first leaf. My greatest works often begin where human eyes see nothing at all. That is why patience is never empty. Waiting is never wasted. Silence is never meaningless. While you wonder whether anything is changing, hearts are quietly being prepared in ways only heaven understands. Last night was proof of that preparation. Something shifted. Something softened. Something awakened. Yet the journey is not complete. Because awakening always comes before decision. And decisions have the power to change entire futures. Your soulmate stood at the edge of such a decision. Not because someone pressured them. Not because circumstances demanded immediate action. Because truth itself gently invited them forward. Every step toward truth requires courage. Every step away from fear requires trust. Every step toward love begins with honesty. That honesty had finally arrived. But another revelation waited just beyond it. One they never expected. One that caused them to stop completely. One that made their heart race for an entirely different reason. As dawn finally broke across the horizon, they noticed something they had overlooked for far too long. It was not hidden in another person. It was not hidden in the past. It was hidden inside the meaning of everything they believed your connection represented. The pieces aligned. The memories connected. The unanswered questions suddenly pointed toward one unmistakable truth. And in that breathtaking moment, they whispered a sentence so quietly that only heaven heard it. That single sentence became the beginning of a choice that could reshape everything from this point forward. But before that choice could be made, before those words could fully take root, something completely unexpected happened, something neither of you could have anticipated, something that interrupted the very moment their heart was finally ready to move. And that unexpected interruption is where the next part of this story begins.